I had to go in and change a whole bunch of settings this morning. So I was like, I don't think I know what I'm doing. I'm getting better on the. Oh, here we are. We're live. I had to go in and change a whole bunch of settings this morning. And it's got a little bit of delay. So I don't think I know what I'm doing. I think I'm going to have to silence it so I don't have to listen to the delay. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. So I am actually, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I am going to go back to there, the Zoom screen, so that I'm not looking at that YouTube. We're live. We'll let it do whatever it's going to do over there. I'm just say hello to my subscribers and anybody else who pops by today. Um, this is the Shame-Free Zone. My name is Veronica Monet, and I'm the founder and host of this program. With me today is Christopher Stubbs, and he's a really courageous man. I am just so excited to be talking with him today. Is it okay to call you Chris?
It is okay, and I prefer Christopher.
Okay, well then we're going to say Christopher. Christopher, because some people like think, oh, that's the name I heard when I got in trouble. So I want to be careful. What the first thing I want to do is just like kind of introduce people to you. You're a coach. I see that you're certified through the Hendricks Institute.
Yeah.
Yeah, is this Gay Hendricks?
Yes.
Yeah, just say a little bit about that so we kind of get some idea that isn't just your personal journey, but also that you have some expertise.
Mm. In my late 20s, I became an apprentice of Gay and Katie Hendricks at the Hendricks Institute for
Okay.
a few years. And it was, since then I've gone on to do 20 years of deep work, and I'd already been doing many years of deep work. And
Yeah.
to date, that is the most important foundational stuff that I come back to. Like I've done breath work, I've done shamanism, I've done Native American Lakota stuff and body language and communication and parenting and all kinds of stuff. And in all of that, there's still this foundation that is based in everything that they brought to my world, that if I could only do one of the things out of everything I've done, it would have been that, because um, it just blesses every aspect of my life and those that I touch. And when I notice others who've done similar work without doing the Hendrix, it feels like there's these missing pieces
Yeah.
that doesn't help them integrate in a way that they could be their full
Yeah.
magnificence if they had that.
I have some close friends, I actually consider them my chosen family, who have spent a lot of time in that program as well. Phoenix and Ocean Robbins, have you ever
Oh,
met
yeah.
them?
Mm-hmm. Awesome
Okay.
people.
Okay. Well, we are more connected than we knew.
Didn't even know.
Oh, yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about that program. So,
Yeah.
yeah, great. Okay. Um, Today you're going to share a story that you have shared many times over the last 20 years, but possibly never made it the focal point of an interview. And I've talked about this with you in a pre-interview. I think I just want to remind you that I'm a sexual assault survivor, both as a child and as an adult. And I've been, I have a book that is not published yet about the first 25 years of my life, and it's very much about my father who molested me and raped my sister, and just my whole journey around that. And how I came to a place of forgiveness. One of the things I've really been trying to stress is that forgiveness isn't obligatory. Some people actually find their healing without forgiveness. But as I understand it, you and I are kind of these outliers that found our healing through forgiveness. And also, you took some very brave steps for accountability. with your dad. So if we could start at the beginning a little bit, just to, I don't want to linger a lot on the details because, sexual abuse of children is sexual abuse of children. But could you give us just a little bit of an idea of what that was like for you growing up? Maybe how old you were when it started and how long it went on, something like that. Whatever you're comfortable with, Christopher.
Yes, I'm comfortable with all of it.
Okay.
So the the actual recollection, I don't have an actual recollection of any of when and how I was touched or molested or abused. Well, I remember the physical stuff. I remember the mental, emotional stuff.
Yeah.
Um, my first memories were some good times and a lot of really intense times.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. I mean, examples of the physical and mental emotional abuse were, when I was 3 or 4, he was drunk, he was raging, he was beating everyone up, yelling, screaming. He threw the it was in the middle of the winter. We were very, very poor. And
Yeah.
we heated our home with a wood fireplace. There was oftentimes our power would be cut off or we wouldn't have food in the fridge. And
Uh,
the neighbors might have compassion and drop a box of food on our porch, and that got us through.
wow.
And so that experience was very impactful as I began to do my deep mental, emotional, spiritual work in my 20s. It came back to that experience many, many times.
Right.
He eventually threw the baby's high chair through the front window of the house.
I hope
Um,
without the baby in it.
without the baby in it. My mom had finally, she was hero, rescuer, enabler, codependent that kind of just wanted to be loved and just kept trying to piece it all together, but
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
sit and take it and allow it, not knowing how to do anything different. She finally couldn't take anymore and she got up and ran out of the house and he chased her out. And when they came back, he had punched her in the face. I don't know what all, but she had broken glasses and a bloody face and bruised face, and they came back into the house. And then he continued to yell and freak out and all the things. And then he finally said, "I'm leaving, and whoever's coming with me, get in the car, and whoever's staying with your loser mom, basically, uh,
Mm.
bye," or some version of that, right?
Wow.
Um,
Wow.
and then interestingly enough, most of us got in the car, and so there were many things to sort out through this. It took
Yeah.
uh, uh, timeline regression therapy and somatic therapy and breath work and shaman, just many, many layers.
Right.
Uh, but one of the things that was really hard to sort out is, why did I get in that car? Like, yeah, there's all these other things, and that's a lot, but why did I get in that car,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so that's, we could go down that rabbit hole alone, but probably not. We could get to more fruitful things.
Well,
Another,
just, I'm sure that's a trauma bond,
right,
right?
right.
Yeah.
And many layers that I uncovered around that. But and then I'll share one other quick memory just to kind of give context. Um, one day he was drunk. He was most of the time drunk, and there was pornography all over the house. Like back then, we didn't really have much TV and stuff, but magazines, just it was everywhere, and
Yeah.
it's pretty vile, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Um, he was drunk. He ran out of beer. There was no beer store in the town we're in, so you have to drive 30 miles to the beer store. And so he tells us all, get in the car, and proceeds to drive to town drunk with the whole family in the car. And on the way, my older brother, we had 9 siblings,
Yeah.
and my older brother, 2 siblings above me, he was always a sensitive type. A lot of me and my other brothers, I was sensitive and super intuitive, empathic and all the things, but I also learned to
Yeah.
cultivate a hard shell. And that other brother never did get that hard shell. The three of us, four brothers, three of us learned to grow a hard shell.
Yeah.
This one didn't.
Mm.
And on the way to town, my dad's yelling and freaking out at everybody, and that brother started crying and wouldn't stop. And my dad, if he wanted us to stop crying, he would beat us, tell us, shut up, stop crying. And then he would beat us. And then we'd cry more and he'd say, I say, shut up. And it could go on for a couple of hours until you learn to shut up in the midst of being profusely beaten.
Wow.
So needless to say, um, just learning to open my throat chakra took 30 years of immense work to where now it's like I can't not open it. If something's going on that doesn't work, it just
Yeah.
comes out. Hey, and I now that took a lot of mastery because the early stages were I'm either gonna suppress or I'm going to out escalate you.
Yeah.
And I'll speak up, but it could be. So I've studied nonviolent communication and all kind like
Mhm. Yeah.
communication's been a critical piece along the ways, and meditation and all the things, but and transmuting all the some
Yeah.
scars and trauma
Yeah.
so that I
Yeah.
can respond versus react. But um, right now, my learning edge and refinement, which I'm starting to get quite well at, is I speak, but most of the time I can speak unarguably in a nonviolent way that just expresses what I'm available for, what I'm not available for, what I'm going to do to
Right.
take myself, what I need in this moment,
Right.
uh, and then take the space I need. And then later, when everyone's in a good space, come back and say, this is what I need from here, or this is what I'm going to do to take care
Mm.
of me.
Mm.
That's been 30 years of immense work to get to that place. Because it was either no voice or basically I'll destroy you, right? That's all I had access to in the beginning. But the rest slid
Christopher,
down.
I totally understand. I've been on a 40-year healing journey
Yeah,
myself.
yeah,
Um, the stuff is in our bodies,
yeah, yeah.
in our
And
bodies, and you
that's so
keep,
big. Because you
yeah,
get it, you might get the intellectual of it all
yep,
decades before it
yep.
actually is here. That's what's
Oh, and our ACE scores, adverse childhood experiences, they have a little
Mhm.
scale. I'm just like, I break the thing.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
sure you would too. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like, who developed this thing? It's inadequate for people who
yeah,
have been through the kind of trauma that we've been through.
yeah.
There, so you mentioned pornography. Can you give us just a little idea of what kind of sexual abuse was going on in the home?
Yes, and if I could give a just a short little more, finish that story, give a little
Oh,
more
absolutely.
context, and
Take your
then
time. Take
tell
your time.
how it was revealed to me about the sexual abuse and kind of the journey
Yes.
that kind of
Yeah.
might set
Yeah.
this up better.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So the one brother won't stop crying. Dad keeps escalating to get him to stop. He
Yeah.
doesn't. And
Yeah.
there's this windy, curvy hill with a couple 100-foot cliffs on the side.
Oh
Um,
my God.
and so he pulls off the side of the road by that and he tells
Wow.
them, shut the F up, or I'm going to drive this car off the cliff and kill all of us right now. And the brother wouldn't shut up. And so he slams on the gas and surges forward towards the cliff and slams on the brakes right on the edge.
Oh my God.
Uh, and then proceeds to yell further. And I'm about three at this point. And so I
Oh,
proceed to
Christopher.
climb from the back seat into the front. I put my hand on my dad's chest and look him in the eyes. And I'm just like, somehow my soul or whatever my being
Wow.
had abilities and thought I could reach him by touching his heart and looking into his eyes. And he backhanded me across the car, and I smacked against the other window and flopped to the ground and started crying. And then everything continued on. And I had reoccurring dreams about driving off that cliff for many years. Uh,
Oh man.
so all that to kind of set the stage that way. Now, when it came to the sexual piece,
Can we slow down just a little bit?
yes,
I'm feeling inclined to meet you at these places. I know for me as a survivor, feeling all like there's something uniquely horrible about my family and about my childhood can be really painful. And you've got so much courage, and I'm just really wanting to be with you in this as much as possible. So I
thank you.
just I wanted to share a story from I was older than you. I was probably 10. I think I was 10. And my dad he was a gun nut. He loaded his own ammunition and had a bunch of guns. And he had taken a 30 carbine and modified it to a fully automatic weapon. So all you had to do was pull the trigger once and it would just unload the whole clip. And I think there were like 30 rounds in the clip. It
Mm-hmm.
was so he beat my mom, and he was getting angry with her. They were having an argument and he was coming towards her, and she grabbed the carbine and pointed it at him, and she was shaking and just spitting. She was frothing at the mouth. She was out of her mind. And she said, "You stay away from me. You stay away from me." And she was pointing the gun at my dad, and I had fired it. I knew how powerful it was and that it would just walk away with you.
Wow.
And I was standing right next to my dad, and I wanted her to kill him. And I knew I'd die too.
Mm.
But it was such a nightmare. I just wanted it to end. So, your story is very different, but it's also the same. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing. That is wow.
Yeah. Thanks for making space for it. Just so take a breath here. These things are hard. And when you feel ready, yes, I would like to hear more about
Thank you.
yeah. How did you find out about the sexual abuse?
So it was first in my teens, I would hear whisperings or someone would kind of suggest something to me. And
Someone as in a voice.
no, like people, physical people,
Oh, physical people. Okay.
in the community would be like either I'd overhear other people talking about my dad being a molester. They never talked about the other abuses, but they would talk about the molestation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so occasionally someone would kind of like an adult that knew that was closer to his age or maybe within a 10 year range or something that knew someone
Right.
might say, hey, what's the deal with your dad? Is he a molester? Or they might say, yeah, I heard your dad's a molester. What's up with that? Or just there were many instances where that information started to come to me from other humans. And I would just be like, no, no. And I would just be in denial. That didn't happen. That didn't happen. And at this point, I just had this attitude. Okay, there was a bunch of things that happened. I'm just gonna have a positive attitude, put it behind me. And let me give a little more context. My dad
Okay.
went to prison for it when I was like 5.
Oh,
And
whoa.
so from
Well, there's a wake up call.
right. So from 5 on, until I was almost an adult, my dad was almost not in my life at all.
I'm going to
Um,
pause just a
yeah,
second here. We are live streaming, but do you mind if I just go ahead and hit the record button too?
great.
Okay. Now we got it everywhere.
Perfect.
Okay. So your dad, how old are you when your dad went to prison?
Around 5.
Oh my gosh. Well,
Mhm.
from an outside observer, of course, my first thought is, well, thank God,
Mhm.
because it sounds, but children don't always feel that way. We love our parents. And you did choose to go with him that time. So there obviously a trauma bond going on. How was that for you to lose your dad?
It was a mixed bag for sure. So the way I remember it, and when I've talked to my mom and different others, it's my memory isn't doesn't it's not quite accurate, but this is how I remember it. It's only partially accurate. He had been working, we had moved to an Indian reservation near Vegas, Nevada. They had leased a piece of land right next to their reservation from the US government and gotten funding to create low income housing so that they could have industry and income.
Yeah.
And so in this housing development that was subsidized by the government so that poor people like us could afford to live in nice new houses.
Yeah.
Our rent was something like $50 a month because the government subsidized the rest of the money to the natives. So in
Yeah.
this little ghetto neighborhood ish we lived in, it was um, basically really low income people that was mostly whites, blacks, and Mexicans.
Mm.
And we were bonded together because we were essentially lived on the Indian reservation, and the Indians were hostile to all of us.
Okay.
Um, very, very hostile.
Understandable.
Yeah, right.
That,
Uh,
that
yeah, that
wasn't
took me.
really,
I went.
but you don't know that when you're a little kid.
Yeah, all I knew was Indians were really mean, dangerous people up
Yeah.
until my late 20s when I got introduced to the Lakota standing buffalo tribe that practices the white buffalo calf practices, and I've been with them for 20 years now. So I went from
Right, right. You've had quite a
hating
journey with,
hating everyone that's if you look like an Indian, I hate you automatically, and I hope we don't get
yeah,
an entanglement because I'm probably going to hurt you. I'll
yeah.
just stay away from you. To now, I feel like I'm more native inside than I am white, right? Like,
Oh, what a great story. What a
yeah.
wonderful journey. Yeah.
So the way that went down is my sister, my second oldest sister, finally got the courage and she turned my dad in.
And how old was she?
First guess is probably around 13ish.
What a
Yeah.
brave young woman.
Yeah.
Wow. Was she supported by your mom? Did your mom?
Um, I don't know how to answer all that very well. I know that she
Yeah,
stood on
you're
her own
5.
courage and made it happen. And it was so needed and beautiful and powerful. And
Yeah.
she died
Yeah.
maybe 4 years ago of cancer, and she carried
I'm
for the rest of
sorry.
her life. And I tried to help her get over it. I'm like, no, what you did was exactly what you needed. But she carried the guilt that she split up the family and ruined the family, and that she was to blame.
Oh,
That
oh.
was an interesting thing.
Hmm. Hmm. You know what?
So
What this is why, like, I come from a family where there was pedophilia on both sides. Both my mom's side of the family and my dad's side, both my parents were survivors, and then my dad carried the abuse forward. Nobody wants to talk about it because they're so afraid
yep,
of ruining the family.
yep,
Um,
yep.
yeah.
That's such an
Sorry,
interesting
I'm
thing
sorry that
how that
she
plays out.
never got past that guilt.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So the way
yeah,
I remember it, he had been working out of town for a long time. He worked in construction, and he would often travel to wherever the good paying construction was. And
yeah. This
so
is
he
your
would be
dad,
gone. He was gone for long periods of time, and we're kind of just little wild Indian kids playing in nature all the time.
right?
And I miss my dad. I kind of had blocked out all the rough stuff, and it was just dad hasn't been here, and where's dad? And I want to see dad.
Yeah,
And so one day I see him walking because he would hitchhike to save money. He would leave his truck where he was, hitchhike to us,
yeah.
spend however much time he was going to be there, and then hitchhike back to the faraway state. And and work for weeks or a month or whatever.
And I
Um,
think it's important to highlight that oftentimes the pedophilic parent is also the breadwinner.
yeah,
That they're the ones bringing in the money that keeps the
yeah,
family
yep,
supported and
yep,
fed.
yep.
Yeah.
So one day I see him walking down the road and I'm super excited. And my mom tells me, stay in the house. She goes out and greets him on the road and tells him basically, I don't know the words, but hey, you've been reported. The cops
Wow.
are looking for you and you need to
Wow.
leave and don't come back. And
Wow.
so talking to my, knowing my own experience and speaking to my other siblings, that was
Yeah.
mostly sad. It was like, oh, we're gonna see dad. Oh, dad turned away
Oh,
and he's not coming back. And then later
oh,
he's in prison and all the things. So that's yeah,
oh, God. I feel so much compassion for you as a little boy. That just sounds so painful. You actually see your dad want to run up and say hi to him, and you don't even get to hug him. I get that. I really do. No matter what he did, he was your dad. I get that. Yeah.
you're it's really interesting the way you meet. You're clearly and all the times I've told these stories, the way you help ensure the pauses and the breath and reflect back with empathy and your
Hmm.
capacity to actually relate to all sides of it versus most people are just like couldn't understand, they wouldn't accentuate
I
that
know.
side, right? They would
I
stay
know.
focused on the other stuff. So it's beautiful.
I know. I'm glad. That's where I live, Christopher.
Yeah,
Holding it all at the one
yeah,
time,
yep.
which is really painful.
Yeah, that, that's one of my become one of my favorite experiences is not throwing the baby out with the bathwater and not just taking
Yeah.
any side. It's like, can I hold it all and see it in its purest light? And holding that paradox is such
Oh,
a powerful and important piece.
it's so past time to get over the polarized thinking. Life is not black and white. There
Yeah.
are some things that are really just absolutely positively bad, but we don't seem to have a language for the accountability
Mm-hmm.
and consequences.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, some ability for people to redeem themselves,
Yeah.
which this is why I'm so excited to talk to you, but we'll take our time to get there.
I don't know if you've watched I had a very powerful experience like a week ago watching an interview. I don't remember the last name of the doctor, but Aubrey Marcus had an interview with Dr. John something. Have you seen or heard
Okay.
about this? It's
Mm-mm.
been all over. Everyone's been buzzing about it. So I finally watched it,
Huh.
and it's along the lines of this paradox we're talking about.
Yeah.
Because over the years, me and my dad's healing journey and to that forgiveness and accountability and unconditional love and learning to infuse the integrity in the midst of all of it.
Yeah.
That's a long, interesting, and powerful journey and experience. But there was this underlying tension between my dad and myself as we learned to embody the paradox of all of this to come to that place.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the root in the tension in that dialogue between Aubrey Marcus and Dr. John, whatever it
Uh-huh.
um, is that dialogue and conversation my dad and I were having all these years. And so
Okay.
watching that, basically the John guy's like, who am I to determine what's right or wrong or to
Okay.
place judgment on any experience? And he's this therapist that helps people in the most intense situations like these. And by
Mm-hmm.
helping them reframe it, he's very, very good at helping them release the trauma and the pain and to
Mm.
recognize they've been victimized, but they're not a victim, and to
Yeah.
turn it into something powerful. And then Aubrey
Yeah.
Marcus is saying, yeah, but if I see someone molesting or abusing or raping someone, I'm going to stand up and protect them. But the
Yeah.
way they're approaching it is they're in this tension of that one's true and the other's not. it's either this or it's that. And for me, I'm watching it and I'm going, they're both true, they're
Yeah.
both helpful,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
there's it's a superimposed paradoxical reality that they're both right. And it's not, it don't actually need to be in opposition. It's if we
Yeah.
could adopt and hold both, then we could hold the integrity and the safety while also embracing the perfection and divinity in it all.
Well, like you were just talking about your mother being an enabler.
Yeah.
Um, and so was mine. Um, by the way, of course, all the women on
Right.
both sides of my family were
Right.
enablers. It was the only thing they knew how to do.
Right.
And they were born in a different time and didn't even have language or
Right.
resources
Right.
for these type of conversations.
Right.
So I have some compassion for them. I also have some anger towards them for
Mhm.
not standing up and protecting the children. And a
Mhm.
lot of us children got hurt.
Yeah.
Um, but the idea that we can have compassion for people who perpetrate without co-signing or
Right.
enabling
Right.
what they do,
Right.
that there have to be consequences for our actions.
Yes.
That there has to be justice for survivors. But what does
Mhm.
that look like?
Mhm.
So backing up to where your sister is about 13 and she reports your dad and he shows up, you're 5, and you don't get to hug your daddy, and he goes away. I'm assuming that he got arrested eventually because he went to prison.
Yep. Not too long after that.
Did you visit him in prison?
No, we all got my mom was became was already unstable and became even more unstable at that point, was drinking and
Yeah.
alcohol and
Yeah.
sex and partying, and so you have
Yeah.
9 kids on this very dangerous Indian reservation, and she's checking out in all the ways and trying to numb and find
Yeah.
herself. And so all
Mm.
of us get sent to foster home. And
Oh,
yeah.
and in different foster homes.
Different. So yeah, there were two of my two of my brothers went to the same foster home, and everyone else went to different ones.
Oh, wow. Was there child sexual abuse going on in the foster homes? Because that happens a lot too.
um so the good news is we were only in the foster care. I think the judge told my mom, like, he gave her a list of criteria. You need to,
Yeah.
sober up, you need to join AA. I don't know what it was, but you need to
Yeah.
probably sober up, join AA, and get a job, or whatever it was.
Right.
And so I don't know the time, if it was 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I don't know, but I was in a really good foster home. I actually liked it better than the home I came from.
Oh
Uh,
no. It only lasted a few weeks. I'm sorry.
they were like this stable, loving, balanced family that I truly cared. I would sit on
Yeah.
their lap, and we would, it was safe. It was like a normal,
Oh.
nice family.
Oh.
But all my
Thank
other
God though
siblings
that you
report,
got that
yeah,
experience at 5. Thank
yeah.
God.
But
Yeah.
all my other siblings reported being like, the two brothers were with this old dude that was a weirdo. I don't think he did anything bad to them, but he's just
Yeah.
doing it for the money.
Oh, great.
So all of them kind of reported having no major bad,
Yeah.
abuse, anything, but all of theirs were just like, what the heck? This sucks. And I was like, this is
Okay.
awesome.
And then you were back. So it sounds like your mom got her act together.
She did really good.
Good for her.
Yeah,
That's not an easy thing to do for a
yeah.
battered woman.
It's
So good for
amazing
her.
what she pulled off. I mean,
Yeah.
she was fairly lacking in resources and empowerment, and she loved her kids enough and
Yeah.
found a way, sobered up, got a job.
Yeah.
Um, Now that was another chapter of her. She became a night shift waitress. Um,
Yeah.
and she at first she it was like she was making $2 an hour and $40 a night in tips, right? So you're like
Yeah.
56 bucks a day trying to feed 9 children as a single mother,
Unbelievable.
right?
Wow. Yeah.
Over time she learned, if you learn how to flirt and waitress right, you can make a lot of money, right? You
She's absolutely right about that.
right. So over time life got better and better and better for a
Uh,
number of years there, till when I
yeah.
was about 10 we had a
Yeah.
pretty awesome family, and it was like it
Yeah.
felt really good.
Good. Good. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. How long was your dad in prison, Christopher?
He only spent like a year.
A
um
year.
yeah.
Okay. So it must have just been one count against your sister.
um there was a lot more that did happen. I don't know the logistics of how or why all that went down
Yeah.
that way. i
Yeah.
I yeah, it's very interesting because the things he did could easily land someone in prison for 10 or 15 years, right? Maybe 20.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
he
Well,
got
the
one.
legal, the legal
Yeah.
system.
Yeah.
What- Uh, at what point do you start having memories that he had molested you?
So I don't have any, I still don't have memories of, I mean, though I have vague memories of him always having electric vibrators that he would not sex toy vibrators, but
Yeah.
massager vibrators. But I
Yeah.
have this knowing that he would rub those on all of us in places, right? So I have this knowing because I remember the vibrators always being there. I remember a weird feeling about it. I remember all
Yeah.
my siblings have talked about it.
Okay.
So there's, it's vague about that, but that's the only memory. But I also have this inner knowing that he touched me in places and ways, but I don't have actual memories.
Yeah.
When the real solid evidence started coming in was when I was in my 20s, and my older sister would call me, my oldest sister. And by
Yeah.
that time I had done a lot of inner work and had a lot of skills and resources. So I became a lot of my siblings would reach out to me to try to work through their stuff. And my oldest sister would call me just, and she's the one that took the most of this stuff. And she would call me, and she was in an abusive relationship with a man that was similar to my dad. And she would call me drunk, just obliterated and ready to kill herself. And I would drive across the state in the middle of the night, pick her up, bring her to my place. She'd live with
Yeah.
me for a month or two, help her get on her feet, and then she'd go back to her husband
Wow.
and repeat. That
Wow.
happened for years.
Yeah.
And when she was with me and I was supporting her and holding space, she would tell me all the things that went on. And the worst memory I have of that, and I don't even know how graphic you want me to get. How, like, you want me to tell a little toned down
It's
version?
whatever feels right for you. I don't want this to be about titillation, but if it's helpful, I share a lot of details about my life, and this is the shame-free zone. And we talk about sex here all the time. Now we're talking about something that is can be potentially triggering for people. So I would just say for anybody that's watching, we are talking about child sexual assault here. But yeah, please, whatever your soul feels called to share.
So I'll just tell the peak worst one that just impacted me the most when she told me. And there were many. We're talking months and months and months, and many, many, many times, countless hours and time and presence helping my sister survive through this. And she's now one
Yeah.
of the most amazing. She is like practically an enlightened master. She has turned all of this into gold. I
Yes.
just
Yeah.
honor her so much.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but the
We can
peak,
heal.
yes,
We
it's
can heal.
literally, it's amazing what one can endure and turn into beauty and goodness,
Yeah.
and to become a tremendous blessing for all. uh,
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the worst thing that hit me the most was when she described in detail an experience of her being a teenager and him being drunk and coming in the middle of the night and and having sex with her and her freezing. And
Yeah.
um I'll stop there, but
Was she a virgin?
yes, well, he had already done lots of
Penetration.
stuff in different ways, but this
Yeah.
one, uh yeah, I don't feel that it's hard to convey the full depth of it without all the details, but I don't feel right about sharing it. So
Okay. I
um there was
just
that plus
stay where you feel guided.
so yeah, so I got all the actual this happened, the all these things happened, and that's when major, in my 20s it was intense rage and hatred while still loving my dad. And it's when
Yeah.
I had done a lot of deep work where I knew that in order for me to become an empowered, healed, free, peaceful human, I had to reconcile within me
Yeah.
all of my childhood and with both of my parents. And so this introduces, I want to kill this man,
Uh-huh.
and I love this man,
Oh
and
God, it's so hard to hold both of those in one
yeah,
body.
yeah, and
I wish
I
this
can't.
mofo was dead. And oh my God, that's my dad. I love him.
Yeah, and I want to just delete his number, tell him you're not my dad, don't ever talk to me again, bye.
Yeah.
And I want to have a happy, fulfilling life. And I know that in order to do that, I have to find a way to reconcile with all this.
Yeah. And I just want to say we each have our own journey. I think I always want to be respectful of survivors. And I think I've been raped 3 times as an adult, and I was sexually abused as a child. And I was thinking the other day, have I forgiven everybody? And it's like, no, I haven't. I forgave my dad.
Yeah.
Um, but there was a man that raped me that I have no desire to forgive him.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and part of that is probably because when I reported it to the police, they did absolutely nothing. So that kind of pissed me off. But I want to honor and respect that every survivor has their own path, their own journey. What is fascinating to me is that you and I have found our way to
Mm-hmm.
forgiving our fathers.
Yeah.
And I think there needs to be more talk about that for people who that might actually work with, because the one thing I want to guard against is spiritual bypass. Um,
Yes.
because yes, I'm going to let you talk about that because you have a lot of juice on that. Go.
Not only spiritual bypass, but not all. So, first, let me clarify to reinforce what you're saying.
Yeah.
My words were very specific when I said reconcile. I said reconcile within myself. That doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily mean reconcile with him, because
Right.
many people will never be able to reconcile with that person in this life if that person doesn't gain the capacity and the willingness and the commitment to rise with you through that.
Uh-huh.
Then you won't get it with that person in this life. And so it's actually, so in some scenarios, some of us are blessed enough to get that, but and you can fully resolve and reconcile with or without forgiveness of all the things that took place or that person or their actions. You can fully reconcile in here without
Yes.
anything to do with them. But
Yes. And
yeah,
and
so
and
yes,
heal to the place where you can have a vibrant sexual
yeah,
life,
yes,
and a joyful life.
with a
Yeah.
relaxed nervous system and in peace
Yeah.
and fully
Yeah.
expressed and with safety and
Yeah.
integrity. And it
Yeah.
requires a lot of boundary work and activated voice and honoring your yeses and nos. And there's a
Oh,
lot that's
wow.
required there, but it can be done.
Yes, yes, yes. So absolutely, 100% everything you're saying. So it's in your 20s when you start this dialogue with your dad, and he's by then served a year in prison.
Yeah, and I didn't know if he and I could ever reconcile. I knew that I needed to confront him and gather information, and just I was compelled to have the conversations to begin my reconciliation process with him, not knowing. And all along the way, in the beginning, there were times where I would start to have the conversation, and he would do his gaslighting and justification and defense and spiritual bypass. I remember the first time we were standing outside on a construction site that we were working together on, and I looked down at the ground, and there was a rock about the size of my hand, and I thought, I have to stop this conversation right now, or I'm going to bend down and grab that rock, and I'm going to crush his skull right now, and I'm going to go to prison for killing
Yeah,
my dad.
I
Right.
get that. I get that.
uh, Spiritual
Yeah,
bypass,
yeah,
both when others have done it in my life, and then finding all the ways that I was doing it, and that I
yeah.
would done it to myself or gaslit others and not been able to be
Mhm.
present with them because of the own gaslighting and spiritual bypassing. That's been one of the big things to unravel.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is, man. So, okay, so how do we go from wanting to bash your dad's head in with a rock? What
So
happens next?
my dad and I had become business partners in a construction business, and so we worked
Oh,
together
whoa,
every
whoa, whoa.
day.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. That's you just dropped that on us.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you go from wanting to bash his head in to going into business with him? How does
So
that
we were in
work?
business before wanting to bash his head in.
Oh, okay.
I
Okay.
so when I let me back up a couple steps. At
Okay.
10, I tell you, oh, we actually had a nice family. My mom got her stuff together. She's showing
Oh,
up.
yeah.
We've gotten into this harmony.
Right.
Things are going really well. Well, she comes home one day and says, and she was very open with us about her journey, her process, what she was learning, um, and who she was dating. And so there was
Yeah.
this bond and safety and all these beautiful things that took place. Well, the big surprise that pissed me off was one day, without telling us she was dating anyone at the time, she came home and told us she was getting married, and we never
Wow.
met. And previously,
Did
she
you
would
even know
introduce
the
us.
person?
No. So
Great.
previously, she would introduce us to them and tell us how she was feeling and all the things. And during this time, our life was getting better and better, and it was the best it had ever been. And we moved out of the reservation to this awesome town and a great school, and it was like finally we're just really having an awesome life. And
Oh,
then, as
yeah.
far as we know, she's not dating anybody. And then she sits us all down and says, I'm getting married. And not only am I getting married, I'm getting married to a fundamentalist Mormon polygamist who lives in the cult town that you were all born in. And we're moving back to that cult town because I'm in love with this man who already has three other wives. And I'm going to go back and rejoin the church that I came from because I'm going to be loved, and I'm going to regain my eternal salvation if I repent for my sins.
So that's really fun, Christopher.
Yeah.
As a ritual, not ritual, but a religious abuse survivor, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry.
I love that we can
Man.
laugh about it too, because it's, again,
Oh,
sad.
I
There's
I was born
rage,
into a
there's the
religious cult.
laughter, there's the
There's no part of me that thinks, oh, okay, well, that's not great, but it'll probably be healthier.
yeah,
There's no
right.
part of me that's even entertaining that fantasy. Oh no. And how old are you at that time?
I'm about 10.
10. Yeah. Okay, man. You have been through it. So
Yeah,
does that happen? Do you guys move to
that happens. And so now
yay?
we go from these wild little Indians that have been raising ourselves because our mom works all night, sleeps most of the day, goes to
Flirts as a
AA,
waitress.
what
Yep.
all the things, and we're just out in the desert having the time of our lives, raising ourselves in nature all the time, right? We're in rivers and streams
Yeah.
and
Oh,
Indian burial caves and uh,
yeah.
just just wild Indians in nature. And now she marries this guy. And
Yeah.
typically, what happens in a polygamous setting like that is one of the moms is the alpha mom. That's not an
Mhm.
official term, but she's like, she's
Oh,
usually a
yeah.
narcissist. She's in charge. She's the boss. She's going to
Yep.
punish the other kids that aren't her kids. She's going
Yep.
to dominate all the other wives, and she's going to silently control the man in the background a bit. And then they're going to always have tension because he's supposed to be the man in charge, but she is. And there's all these dynamics. And
Is that what happened?
oh yeah. And then
Right.
he he's a farmer who also owns a trucking company and a mechanic shop, and he
Yeah.
his coping mechanism is work. It's like to cope with having the insanity of four wives and 30
Yeah.
something kids and never knowing how to face his own trauma and fears and pains. He just and having to provide for a family that large, it's work, 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 work. So we go from these wild Indians to there's no time for play, there's no time to read, there's no time to nothing. You get up at 4 or 5 in the morning, you milk the cows, you go process the milk, you get showered and dressed, you then we're going to go to work all day long on really hard intense work, no matter what weather, no matter birthdays, holidays, weekends, like it's
Is
work,
there no
work.
school?
So he would allow school. Usually they would kind of pressure you like once you get to the 8th grade, you don't need any further education. It's time to come work. So I
And
did
were
go
you
to
allowed to go into a public school?
no private religious controlled school.
Okay. So with other students from the polygamous
Right.
community?
The whole community is
Okay.
everything, every store, every
Ugh.
every school, everything is controlled within the cult. So we'd go to
Wow.
school from like 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. or something, and then
Yeah.
work till like 10, 11 p.m. and then sleep and then get up and milk cows. And then so it went from wild and free to every moment controlled. And
Yep.
you need to be a production will in this cog that helps feed this family.
Wow. Wow.
So at 14, I run away.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And I end up with a mainstream LDS family that
Okay.
is a very the most enjoyable part of my from age 0 to or 1 0 born to age 17. I spend four
Yeah.
years with this family, and it's the best part of all those years. They
How was it that you got, how'd they take you in?
so
Did you
my
already know them?
the same older brother that in the Cliff situation, he had
Yes.
run away 2 years prior to me, and he was
Okay.
going to high school in that town that my dad had gone on the beer run for, where that cliff was. And when he
Okay.
ran away, he was first just living on the streets. He just knew I'm not going to live here with this situation and this cult situation. So
Yeah.
he packed up his stuff, uh, walked or hitchhiked or somehow got to that town 30 minutes away, and he
Yeah.
slept on park benches and uh,
Hmm.
wherever he could in coverts, whatever, and would go to school during the day. And then he would tell his friends, "Hey man, can I get a shower?" And
Wow.
in
Wow.
all that, at some point, some really nice people of his friends' parents
Yeah.
figured out his situation. They're like, "Dude, this is don't do that. You're amazing. Come live with us."
Oh,
And so he had been living with them for maybe a year, and he was really thriving. And
yeah.
so when I called him and told him, "Dude, I ran away," when I first ran away, I drove without a license in the middle of the night to Phoenix,
Uh-huh.
Arizona, 7 hour drive to find my dad. because that was the only person I could think of that I could run away to.
Right.
And in an unlicensed vehicle in the middle of the winter with rusted out floorboards, siphoning gas from strangers.
Wow.
That was one of the most intense experiences to date of my life. I
Yeah.
find my dad. I lived there for about a month. He's still a drunken, belligerent jerk. And I
Mm,
called my brother. I'm like, dude, I cannot do this. What ideas you got? He's like, I'll call around. I'll see if I can find someone else that would take you in like I got took in. I
yeah.
said, let me know. He calls me back a couple days later. He says, I found this awesome family. I have friends with some of their
Oh,
kids. And they lived in Springdale, Utah. That's at the base of Zion National Park. And
yeah.
it's just some of the most beautiful country in the world. And so
Oh,
I had an aunt and an uncle come through a couple days earlier. I said, could you give me a ride back to Utah?
yeah.
Absolutely. So they bring me, drop me off there. They take
Yeah.
me in, and I have 4 years of
Of your
just
happiest childhood.
awesome high school
And you went to real
life.
high school.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's,
ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th grade.
yeah, good. I'm so glad.
So then at the
So,
end of, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, so I'm I'm wanting to there's your life is should be a book, by the way. I just wrote a book about mine. You really should write a book if you haven't. I know you've written self-help books, but I don't think you've written this story.
No memoir.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. And I'm also aware of the time and I'm wanting I actually have a coaching client after this, so I can't be late. Um, so if we kind of fast forward a little bit to the point where you go into business with your dad, how old are you?
How much time do you have?
We got about 30 minutes.
Okay. Right out of high school, um, I so during the last couple years of living with that family, I started
Yeah,
I could get high paying work in
yeah.
construction with my dad, him working for someone else. And I had temporary contact with him here and there. He had since moved about 30 minutes away from me,
Okay.
and he was showing up pretty good. And we started to form a little bit of a bond.
So he
And
wasn't being as drunk and belligerent.
yeah, he sobered up and we started to form a bond. And
Okay.
somehow he said, I said, hey, I'm wanting to make some money. I've been washing dishes and bussing tables, and I only
Yeah.
make a little bit of money. And he's like, I could get you probably 20 bucks an hour if you wanted a job here. I'm only like, 14, 15 maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm making 20, 25 bucks an hour as a teenager. And I could work weekends and summers.
Yeah.
And so, and my dad was an absolute genius when it comes to inventing things, building things, creating
Uh-huh.
things, constructing things. And so we're
Uh,
finally getting this bond where he's teaching me skills and trades, and he's
yeah.
sober.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
a big dude that could beat his ass at that point if I needed to,
That
and
always
have a
feels good,
voice.
huh?
um, and so there starts to be a bond formed. And so when I
Yeah.
graduate high school, we've been working for this guy for a few years that was ready to retire. And I
Yeah.
had developed this game plan in my mind. I'm like, this guy wants to retire. I don't want a job. I want a business. And I don't know
Yeah.
that I can do this on my own. I don't know anything. So I'm going to approach my dad, see if he'll partner with me. We'll go to our boss, propose a
Yeah.
buyout. We don't have any resources, but I'm going to see if he'll accept this offer. So I go to him and I say, look, you keep saying you want out of the business. I'm a young punk. I want to be in business.
Mhm.
If I gave you 10% of everything I make moving forward, will you sign over your business to me now?
So
Yeah.
how did that feel to you when you knew that your father had viciously beaten you and your siblings and had raped your sister when she was 13 and had gone to prison for it? And now you want to go into business with him. There's a part of me that just assumes, well, you're kind of struggling to try to get on your feet. But was there also a part of you that wanted him to show up and be a dad?
I think if you psychologically broke it down, it's probably a child trying and hoping that he can have the dad he didn't have.
Yeah.
If you add a couple other layers there, a spiritual bypass would be in there for sure, because I've since observed deeply in the family, even today, there's certain ones of them. If I tell I was with my own mom and my oldest brother the other day, and they're like, we're looking at a picture, an old picture, and there's this
Yeah.
cousin of mine that was quite a bit older than me that was a woman.
Right.
And they said, "Oh, that's Rosie. She's so sweet." And I said, "Yeah, I love her and she's amazing." And I said, "She's also the woman that absolutely beat the living crap out of me." Like, so she watched us, me and my next oldest brother. And when
Yeah.
I see her picture, I see who she is today. But there's still kind of there's always
Sure.
a response that comes up, because I have flashes in my head of when I don't even remember what we did that pissed her off. But she
Wow.
made us take off our pants, and she beat and beat and whipped and whipped and whipped and whipped and whipped us black and blue for
Wow.
what felt like hours. I don't know. I was very young. I was probably two and a half,
Oh,
3
wow.
maybe. And so I
Mm.
still have this visceral response to that woman, even though she's an amazing woman now. But
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so I brought it up,
And you should. And you
right?
should.
And I said, I brought that up, and both my mom and my brother go, "Yeah, but she went through a lot of hard stuff. And you got to remember that when she beat her brother like that, he went and hung himself with a belt and committed suicide." And so, so I bring that up to be like, in the environment I grew up in, it was always protect the perpetrator. It was always
Always. Yeah.
bypass the intent. I don't know what. So if I bring up something intense like that, instead of being with me the way you are, the way
Yeah.
we were conditioned was, let the past be the past, have a positive attitude, let's not be negative,
Oh,
let's not be
oh yeah.
judgmental, let's be unconditionally loving. Please don't, let's not talk about that. You're just going to make a mess. And we don't. So with that conditioning and me
Yeah.
operating with that operating system, then I've spiritually bypassed. I've
Sure.
adopted all those
Course,
operating systems. So to
course
go
makes
into
total
business
sense.
with him, I'm just thinking, well, I'm glad that we're getting along right now, and that there's an opportunity, and the past is the past. I hadn't done
Yep.
any somatic healing. I didn't know boundaries. I didn't have I was a different person at that time.
But you eventually get to that with him. At some point, you do have the boundaries and you bring the conversation of accountability to him.
Yeah, so we go into business together, and our first deep bond was he would always listen to like Eckhart Tolle or uh, Deepak Chopra, which interesting. Um,
Yeah, okay, that name
right.
means a whole
Uh,
other thing
or Neil
now.
Donald Walsh or Paul
Right.
Farini, uh, Wayne Dyer. So, and it was
Yeah.
annoying at first. I was like, "Dad, I just want to listen to popular music while we drive to work. Why do we have to listen to these boring tapes?" Well, over
Yeah.
time, and that's another interesting thing. Here's the guy that obliterated my psyche, who's also introducing me to deep
Yeah.
concepts that help bring me to this beautiful place.
Mm,
And
amazing.
so over time, he and I begin having one place we can bond, and that's talking spirituality and psychology and all these things,
Oh,
by listening to these books together and then dialoguing back and forth about what we're learning.
oh my God, I just want to take a moment. That is, I I'm jealous. I never got to do that with my dad. That is just so rare. I'm
And
really happy
special
for you.
because not only did I get to do it with him, he's the one that introduced it.
Yeah, no, I get that. I get that. I get that. Wow. It's as if your guides really want you to get this lesson
Mhm.
of carrying all of it at once.
Yeah, yeah.
And I love that you're not doing the spiritual bypassing thing as you see the light.
Mhm.
Um, that is what to me, I'll just speak for myself. I have a judgment. My judgment is it's an advanced spiritual practice, but I
Mhm.
also think that it's one that that the human family has got to move towards.
Yes.
Yeah. Because one thing about it, people don't want to see the pedophiles in their families
Yep.
because they're human beings that they love.
Yeah.
And until we can love those human beings and also see the crimes they're committing,
Yep.
it's just going to keep happening.
Yep.
And children are going to continue to suffer. And some of those children will continue to carry the
Yep.
child molesting forward.
Yep.
So I'm just really blown away that your dad brought that to you. But then again, you told me he got sober. So I don't know how he got sober. I got sober in a 12-step program. I've been sober now for 40 years, and it really does make a big difference. Really
Mm-hmm.
does. So it sounds like your dad starts working some spiritual
Yes.
principles.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so he got to the point that I think in his head it was probably hell prior to that, and for many, many decades. And I think the time that he would have relief is when he was listening to higher spiritual principles. And part of that was helping him think differently. And the other part was actually kind of what I was saying about that interview between Aubrey Marcus and Dr. John, whatever.
Yeah.
It was helping him spiritually bypass, because inside of him, with some narcissistic tendencies, deep, deep rooted guilt and shame, knowing all
Yeah.
that he had done, trying to stay alive and survive, because if he fully faced himself in that guilt and shame, he'd probably off himself. And everyone in the world or everyone around him is judging him, and he's judging himself, and he's in this deep guilt and shame. So as he's learning the spirituality, he's also learning to use it to spiritually bypass. So in one
So
way, it
stop,
protects him.
stop right there. Pause right there. That is very, very powerful what you just said. And I'm familiar with that pattern in my own personal life, not with my dad, but with other people in my life. And oh, you just encapsulated so much there that the narcissist
Yeah.
is on this knife's edge
Mm-hmm.
of suicidal ideation.
Yeah.
And they are desperately trying not to see who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And so they can end up erecting themselves as some kind of a guru or teacher or
Mm-hmm.
spiritual
Mm-hmm.
whatever, as a way of bypassing accountability for the things
Yeah.
that they've done.
Yeah.
How did your dad get to the place where he was able to move past the narcissistic drive to protect himself from fully recognizing what he had done and become accountable to you?
Um, so I'm going to continue where I was and go to that. In the short
Absolutely. And
amount of
my
my
apologies for interrupting you. I just
no
really
worries.
wanted to
That was perfect.
underline that
Yeah.
because I just think it's crucial.
So through that, we build this bond around the spirituality, and I'm feeling closer and closer and closer to him around this deepening bond of this philosophical, spiritual conversation that's expanding my life tremendously. And but the deeper that bond goes, the more I have this urge inside of me that I need to also speak to the other things. How can I reconcile that?
Yeah.
The more close I feel and connected in this side, the more I feel I have to call out the rest of this, that I can't just pretend with him.
Mm.
And so that's the first time we're on a job site. A couple years later, we've been forming this bond for several years. I start to feel safe enough and like start to be a little more of a feeling like a man that has a voice that has
Right.
some of my own safety and all the things. And that's when on the job site, that experience I said, where I started to talk to him about it. He started to tell me studies about monkeys and how if they went without touch, they were worse off than monkeys that got touch. And that's why it was okay for him to molest And
Oh,
right,
oh, that's horrific.
right. Or he started to say, well, in
Oh,
I'll give you a sec.
sorry. Sorry, that really. Oh,
That's
God.
yeah, now now
Okay.
you that's about the time I had the urge to grab the rock and crush his
I'll
skull, right?
bet you did. Oh,
I
man.
finally
Okay.
find the
Wow.
courage to ask him about this and say, "Hey, this don't feel good. I don't. What the heck?" And he starts to present data like that tells me, and then he starts to take the spiritual stuff that we'd been connecting on. Well, and when conversations with God said there's no right and wrong, and that all of these things are for our highest good, that we select our family to go through these, right? So he's using both the spiritual connection, the spiritual information that we've been bonding on, plus whatever other weird ideas he had justified with science and monkey testing to tell me how it was all good and beautiful and he had no regrets.
Oh my God. I gotta laugh or I'm gonna scream. Okay. All right.
And so that's the things I've been for 25, 30 years. How do I hold the paradox of this? How do I sort through? And it's like a master's degree in psychology and human behavior and self-knowing and
And accountability and
yeah,
justice.
accountability
And
and so
yeah.
many.
So
So that
what did you learn?
conversation ends with me telling him, "You shut the F up right now. I will kill you. Don't say another word. I mean it.
Yeah.
Not another word. I'll kill you right now."
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we don't talk for days and weeks, and then slowly this we just decide we'll avoid that topic. We'll only talk about these things, and we reestablish some connection and safety. And
Right.
then maybe a year later, I say, "Yeah, I think we've cultivated enough. I think we might be able to have this conversation." And that repeats for probably the next 8 years or something. Um,
Wow.
so then I'm 29. We have many of those hard conversations with really no progress. It keeps ending the same way, but I kind of cut it off a little bit sooner. Instead of telling him I'll kill you, I just say, "Okay, stop. That's all I can do. This isn't getting anywhere. You're full of shit, and I'm done with this conversation." That so it kind of evolved to where not a lot of progress, but I just kind of slowly started accepting we may or may not get anywhere with this. And I might
I
have to do this within myself.
I'm sorry to interrupt again, but Christopher, I know how much patience and perseverance it takes to do that for 8 solid years with somebody who refuses to take responsibility for their crimes. And just so much respect for the level of courage and persistence that you had to bring to that. And also love, because it's love that would propel us to keep trying to have that conversation. And I
Yeah,
don't mean the kind of love that's like desperate
right,
to have a connection
right.
with your dad, but one that is looking for something that's going to expand and heal both of you.
Yeah. As well
So
as my siblings and the rest of the family.
absolutely. So I just want to thank you for
Thank you.
that. Yeah.
Thank you. So fast forward, I'm 29. I'm going through a divorce. My wife had, you know, was having extramarital affairs with my best friend and others. I'm in deep pain. I'm now more
Mm.
than ever wanting to reconcile within myself so that I can quit having these external manifestations that match
Yeah.
what's happening on the inside. I
Yeah.
go
Oh,
to like a 10-day training with a Hendrix.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I do major somatic releasing, some of the biggest breakthroughs in my life. And I'd been studying with them for probably a year and a half, maybe even two. I'm starting to really embody conscious communication and radical responsibility and how to
Mm.
speak
Mm.
unarguably and how to really seek to understand and all these things. Um, and it was like a 10 or 11 day training. And something clicked in. Right before that, I had had a conversation with my dad where I knew I needed to own my voice with him. And I was already maintaining this boundary, but I knew that I needed to communicate to him with my own voice. And so we were at my house, and I said, Dad, and I looked him in the eyes and I said, I need you to know that it's not okay for you ever to be alone with my children. And it was an
That's
initiation
big.
of me standing to his face, looking in his eyes, holding a boundary and
Wow.
creating a safe container that I had never had. And I had pieced that together. I knew, and I knew I needed to say it to him. Even though I'd already been living it, I said it to him. And it was very important that I said it. Well, his response was, well, then you're just being judgmental. That just means you're not unconditionally loving. Blah, blah. And so this was the next layer of my what the heck?
Wow.
How do I reconcile? And what I over the years it ended up being, yes, unconditional love, but only with impeccable integrity. Otherwise, it's nothing. It's chaos. It's everything that's horrible. Unconditional love alone will breed utter chaos and destruction.
We
It
have
must
to
be combined
have
with
healthy
empathy.
boundaries, right? Exquisite boundaries with our unconditional love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after that conversation, I decided I'm disowning this guy. I'm done. I've tried everything. I've gone above and beyond. I've given him every bit of leeway. I've tried everything. F him. I'm just going to tell him, screw you. You're not my dad. I'm deleting your number.
Yeah.
I'm blocking you. Don't ever approach me again. You're dead to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But that's what I had basically concluded. I was right on the edge. Like, is there anything else I can do, or am I going to do this? But then I went to this Hendricks training, had all these breakthroughs, and something clicked. I was like,
Yeah.
I can do this. I can get through to this man. I know how. I can do this. And at about the same time, do you know the book Little Soul in the Sun by Neil Donald Walsh?
I
It's
don't. I'm familiar with Neil Donald Walsh, but not that book. No.
it's a beautiful children's story, and it could be used for spiritual. All these things could be used. Anything could be used in an unhealthy way, right?
Yeah.
But I did the breakthroughs there, read the book, and I decided, hell no, I've got this. I've got this. So when I got home, and at that time I owned a large construction company, like 65 employees, tens of millions of dollars of contracts at any given time, millions and millions of dollars of equipment,
Yeah.
things everywhere,
Yeah.
all the things. And but my dad's living in an old, worn down public transportation retired bus in my
Mm.
construction yard, and he just lays there drunk all day again. He's no longer sober, and he's all alone,
Oh,
like the lonely old
oh no.
narcissist that everyone said screw you. And he lays around in his bus naked, drinking all day drunk, and
Wow.
that's where he's at. And so I pull up in my construction yard. I knock on his door. He comes out pulling some pants on, and I said, "Hey, if you're up for it, that conversation we've been trying to have for the last 8 years or whatever,
Yeah.
I'm here to have it, and I'm not leaving until we actually break through today." And he says, "All right."
Oh,
And he came out. He says, "Want to come in?" I says, "No. Can we sit over here on this dirt?" Sure. So we go sit on this dirt pile, and for 6 hours, I knew what I had to do is I had to not argue with him, no matter what.
yeah.
I had to seek to understand him through questions at the highest level,
Okay.
that I could not react. I had to respond, that I had to
Yeah.
stay grounded and centered and return to my breath and my body, no matter what emotions rose up in me, that I couldn't let them overtake me and go into reaction. Otherwise, we'd have the same result. That no matter where that conversation got, I had to recenter, breathe, and speak unarguably, and seek to understand at the highest level. And it was the scariest conversation of my life probably that I'll ever have,
Yeah. Yeah.
because the last thing I'd ever want to be is a molester. the very last. I'd rather be a murderer any day over any. You can name anything else. I'd rather be a molester or a rapist. That's just the last
Yeah.
thing I would ever want to be. Well, my mission that I've given myself is to go fully into the head of the molester that I've been trying to battle out with for all these years.
Yes.
And I had to go in with openness to learning.
Yeah.
And so the fear was, if I truly seek to understand him instead of combat him, what if he convinces me and I join him?
Yep.
But right, like
Yep.
that was the paradox of all paradoxes of, of,
This is what everybody's afraid of. That's why people just want to demonize,
yep,
because the fear that, well, if I don't demonize, I'm going to get enrolled. I'm going to get pulled in.
yep.
So what? How did you
So
protect
six
yourself from that?
hours, and it was
6 hours, man. That's intense.
and so much breath and represencing and recommitting, like stick to the plan. I know you want to blow up. I know you want to
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah,
okay. Stick to the plan. Keep going in. And you're going into the ugliest mind for me. It is you're have you watched What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams?
yeah. Love that film.
So when
I
they go
love
in with the tracker with him and his son into hell to find the wife, that's
to
what this
find his wife who was in hell in her mind, and that's where she
right.
went when she
I'm
died.
going into
Yes,
my
I remember
dad's
that.
mind
I remember that.
to bring
Yeah.
my dad out. That's exactly what was happening in
Oh my God. Okay.
the
Wow. Wow.
yeah.
That's a sacred calling. So how did it happen? I mean, what happened?
So in the very end, after 5.5 hours, it felt like, man, maybe this is impossible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and then something sparked in me, and I didn't even. It was almost like something was speaking through me. Maybe it was my higher self. I don't know what. And
Yeah.
it's grotesque. It's intense. I says, okay, Dad, I've never wanted your advice because I've never looked up to you. I've never wanted your results. I don't trust you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've never wanted your advice, but I says, let's pretend for a moment that I wanted your advice. I have two beautiful daughters at home right now, and they're probably, I said, they're perfect angels. And how old were they? So if I was 29, they're probably looking at like 1 year old and a 5 year old, both girls. And I says,
Okay.
Dad, I've never wanted your advice, but you're saying all this is fine. You hold no regrets. It's all for our highest good. We all chose all of this. We chose our parents. We chose what type of life and experience we're going to come into. I agree with you on all of that, but something feels wrong about using that to justify and deny the impact that you've had. I says, are you telling me that you look at my our family's life, especially my oldest sister, and you look at all the hell she goes through, and you say, and I had established with him, I says, what do you most want? What do you most value? And he says, to be, return to my Father in heaven, to be one with my Father in heaven. I says, what else? And he says, I says, do you value your kids doing the same? And he says, yeah, absolutely. That's if I could just return to my Father in heaven and have my kids be with their Father in heaven, that's what I most want. And I says, so, and do you agree that dying is like walking through a door? Wherever we're at here, we have
Yeah.
probably have a similar experience passing over. Yeah, yeah. So do you believe you're in heaven right now? No. So is that the experience you want to keep having over there? No. Well, if Dorian, oh, sorry, I shouldn't name, but if my oldest sister,
Yeah.
she's in, and many of us are in varying levels of hell. If you say that's what you most want, can you
Yeah.
see there's been a cause and effect and that they're in a very hellacious experience? And if they died right now, they might be stuck there for a very long time. Does that align with your beliefs? Yeah, yeah. And can you see you've had an impact on that? So then if you were to advise me, and I valued the same thing, me being united with source, and my children being united with source here and in the next life, however that looks. Would you say that the path you've taken would be what you would advise me to do? Can't talk to you right now. Can we do it after? Oh, what? I love you. Oh, not right now. We're on the live call, but I love you. In a bit. Can you go in the other room, please? Thank you. So,
Just reminding you where you were before that sweet interruption.
thank
You
you.
were telling your dad, would you advise me to take the same path you took?
Yeah, and so he's like, well, it's all good still. And I says, okay. So right now, if I leave here, you know my two daughters at home. Uh, how would you do you think it's the best thing I could do for them? Even if it's for our highest good, is it the best? Would it be the best for me? Advise me as a father. Would it be the best for me if I go home right now and go touch them the way you touched my sisters and us? He kind of just freezes, doesn't have a response for me, which is kind of rare. I say, and if I do that, you talk about monkeys needing touch, and if they didn't get touched, they were worse off than monkeys that were beaten. So let's start to define what kind of touch is good. Should I just keep my touch to healthy touch to their back and hugs and stuff that don't need to include their genitalia and things like that? Or would you say it's okay if I go home and I touch their genitalia? And well, he kind of just stays frozen, and I say, or should but so and in that, is it okay if I just touch the outside, or should I touch the inside too? And is it okay to go on the inside as long as it's just a phalange, not another piece? Or should I go ahead and use that? And is it okay to use that as long as I don't, you know, plant seed? And or is that not okay? That's okay as long as I don't impregnate. And by the time I got there, he goes, oh, son, don't do it, which is similar to that what dreams may come, where the dad goes to son, yeah, your mom's don't go in there, like you're gonna get lost, and he sends his son home. That was this moment that I pushed my dad to the breaking point where something burst out of him, and he couldn't, he just says, don't do it. And from there, we backed out, and I said, okay, so if that's not okay, is this okay? Is this optimal? And then to the next layer back, what about this one? What about this one? What about? And we left there, and he says, it's not the way. If I could do it different, I would do it different. You're right. There is cause and effect. I don't, I did not have the effect that I wanted to have. This doesn't align with what I would want for my children and I love them tremendously. And so it was still, I naively thought, oh, we've cracked the code. We're there. We're, we're scot-free. But all we had done was established a baseline. No, it's not optimal. And so then I called a family meeting. I facilitated. Everyone that had never had a voice got a voice, but that ended up blowing up and everyone feeling traumatized by it because it got too intense. There hadn't been enough somatic release healing, but there was progress, but also trauma. And then many years later, I had practiced shamanism for a long time, and I called my dad and I said, will you let me facilitate a medicine journey for you? And he said, yes. So I took him to the mountains. I put him on MDMA. And that whole day, I would call him, I would speak to him. You did this. This is the impact it had on her. This is the impact it had on me. This is the impact it's had on your grandchildren. And he would check out of his body. He would start to go into being in his head or rationalizing or going into deep guilt and shame and unworthiness. And every time I would stop, pause, look him in the eyes, say, breathe with me. Come back to your body. It's okay. This isn't an attack. This isn't punishment. This isn't guilt. This isn't shame. This is accountability with love. And so for 8 hours, I sat while he's on MDMA to help create the safety. And I kept holding the impact to his face and then bringing him back to his body and bringing him back to his lovability and his divinity. They say you have to embrace your humanity to embrace your divinity. I kept showing him his shadow of his humanity and then showing him his divinity and kept bringing him both, paradox, paradox, paradox. It's both. And I kept telling him it's both. You can't just keep jumping from superhuman to subhuman. We have to be able to hold all of this at once and be honest about it. You're divine, you're beautiful, you're powerful, you're amazing. God loves you. You are love. And you did these things and it had this impact. And we can't pretend. And I was able to meet him in a way that day with that medicine, through that inspiration and whatever was working through me, that we took all the incremental progress we had made over the years and we had a quantum leap that day. And then I know we're running short on time, but about 3 months later, I had myself, my dad, my mom, and 9 siblings in the mountains with full consent from everyone for me to facilitate, and brought the entire family through a similar experience where every one of them said in a healthy, safe way, it took me 6 hours, 3 hours the first day and 3 hours the second day to set the container and the boundaries and the rules of engagement and get everyone committed. And then we spent an entire day where everyone said everything that had never been said to each other in one day. And it all went seamlessly, no drama, because I had empowered all of them. Here's how you communicate. Here's how you listen. Here's how you own it. Here's how you breathe and stay centered. Here's how you keep this a safe container. If it goes out of hand, you agree that you'll let me help bring coherence back, and in these ways. And it's the
Christopher,
most.
I am out of time. I have to go work with a client now. I mean, as in now. I hope that I can have you back to talk about these accountability conversations that we can have with family members. I am, I don't know if you saw, many times my jaw just fell open. I'm amazed. I'm stunned. I've never heard of anything like this before. This is this kind of work that I do inside myself, but to have, oh my God, to do that with the family, that's amazing. And we need more of this kind of healing for, because so many families are suffering. I am so grateful to you. Thank you so much for bringing the conversation of accountability and forgiveness without spiritual bypass and healthy boundaries. Oh my God. So beautiful to have had this conversation with you. And I look forward to doing it again. Um, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bless.
Thank you. Blessings on your day. Okay. I'm going to say goodbye now, reluctantly. Okay. We'll talk soon.